Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to KPK, the land of hospitality. No nanchikum da zachiam mo which the sichal boku che local commander chikum da the Birmingham police local commander imuja senior leadership team ke chida. No gasabut bi khabari ukunan the police po borake che po Birmingham ki police sakai usana kai. No inshallah no abatos se introduce kuma خو د څه چالو کې چې دا وګوره ځکه چې دا ډېر امپورټنت ده ځکه چې کای تاسو مشمون کاور کی وی کاله کون وی and they want to be part of the police service, then they're more than welcome to come and join the police service. So without further ado, I think I will introduce Commander for Birmingham, Richard North. Richard, nice to meet you. Thank you very much for coming to see me today.
No problem.
And it's a pleasure to have you on this channel. And obviously this channel is viewed mainly by the Pashtun community. And I know that you know a little bit about the Pashtun community. So I just wanted to have a little chat with you today to tell us a little bit about Birmingham Police and what we are doing as a senior leadership team in Birmingham. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, my name's Richard North. So I've only been in West Midlands Police since 2017. That's when I joined the force. Before that, I used to work in Thames Valley Police. So I think working in two forces is a really useful thing to sort of see how different police forces work and different approaches. When I joined West Midlands Police, I was initially in Coventry, and then I was the force lead for domestic abuse. And then after that, I was the head of force response. So in the old model, which we'll probably come to talk a little bit about, we had a different way of working in West Midlands Police, where partly because of austerity and having to have less managers and things like that, but we had like one big force response department that worked across the whole force, and I was in charge of that. And now I'm delighted to be the commander for the first time, I think, in West Midlands Police history that we've had one command over one senior leadership team over the whole of Birmingham. So it's a very exciting time.
No, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of experience there. So Richard Chikum there, there's a lot of experience there. Zakachi there, like a muja senior leadership leader there, commander there. Ubaldare kanachi Birmingham Chikum there, that you first time in the history of West Midlands Police, muja Birmingham local policing area like a Jodaka. I know Richard don't understand what I'm saying, but I think it's important that some of the viewers who are watching, may want us to speak in Pashto. So I apologise for that.
No, not at all. No,
but there's a lot of experience, and can I just say though, because it's an absolute pleasure to work with you as part of your leadership team. I thoroughly enjoy working for you, and I know that the others do really thoroughly enjoy working for you. So, just a little bit about what are your local priorities for Birmingham then?
Well, so for me, we have transitioned in April this year to this new model, which is quite a big deal, even though it's quite a dry subject to kind of talk about. But before, we had these big departments that run across the force. Now, as I say, it all comes together. So that criminal investigation department, so those detectives that investigate crimes that happen, the local community officers and those officers that respond to 999 calls, and some other areas of business that you're in charge of, like offender management and that proactive side of policing, they all come together under one command. So it gives us that opportunity to work together to try and build a service that works better for local people, that's more Birmingham focused and deliver better results. Now, since April, actually, performance has got a lot better in terms of the amount of burglaries are reducing, the amount of vehicle crimes reducing. We're catching more criminals and putting them in prison. Same with vehicle crime and all across the board, actually, there is an improvement. But my ambition for Birmingham is to make sure that we embed that improvement, make sure it's sustained. And actually, I think going forward, there's, like we discuss a lot in SLT, don't we? There are a lot of challenges at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
With, recruiting staff, getting things settled down, making sure we're properly organised.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity to improve further. Because what I would say is, it's all very well me recounting statistics and things like that. But if you're the victim of crime, it doesn't really mean a great deal because it's your personal experience might not be that. So we're always constantly, my priority is to make sure that we constantly improve and develop something that's more locally focused that works better for people. And I don't think we're entirely there yet. I'm just saying that over the last few months, I think we've made a lot of progress.
No, Birmingham is one of the safest cities in Europe, and I know that that we're doing all we can to try and reduce crime, and I know the performance is good. I know that we're catching more people, we're reducing burglaries, all that. And I know I feel that because when I sit with the local community, you can see, people talking about it and say Birmingham is getting better. I know that some people will say, no, that's not the case, because obviously people are victims of vehicle crime and other, crimes. Of course, like you said, it's very important to them. No matter how small the crime is, it's important to the victim. And we see everything through the victim eyes, and we want to make sure, as you said, through the local policing, is that we deliver that service to that victim so that that victim has the confidence in us delivering that. So I just want to say, Rich, then, so how would you want people to report crime? Because some people do hesitate to report crime because they think, well, what's the point of reporting crime because the police are not investigating. That's not the case, really. But how would you encourage people to report crime?
The most efficient way for us, which might not always be the efficient way for the individual, is to phone it in, and they can do that on 101, or if they need the police there immediately, they can dial 999. So we've made massive investment under our new Chief Constable in the way Contact operates. So people may have had experiences before with the 101 where they can't get through, and that's just not acceptable. And I can apologise to the community that we got in the position that we did. But the investment that's been put into that has been massive. There's been a tremendous amount of work by colleagues in that department, and we are now answering calls a lot quicker. I can't remember the exact figures, but in terms of like a national league, we're quite near the top now for how quickly we answer. So that's a really effective way. If you have information you want to give the police, but you don't want anyone to know that you've given it, which there can be lots of reasons why that might be the case, Crime Stoppers is a good option as well. So you can do, again, on the phone, 0800 555 111, and that information's then anonymous. In terms of your thing about reporting crimes that you think there might not be any lines of, because sometimes crimes get reported, there aren't any lines of inquiry. And we do have to be proportionate about how we use our resources. But it's still really important that people report things so we can build up a picture of what's happening. It might cross-reference with something else where there are lines of inquiry. If you don't report it, then we don't know, and we can't put our resources in the right place. So even if you think, well, the police probably aren't going to do much with this, and sometimes, occasionally, that will be the case, please still report it, because we need to build up that picture, that intelligence about what's happening in your community. Of course, there's
a number of ways that people can report crime, and one of the things that really interests me, Rich, is Street Watch, And I know you've been to the mosque recently, haven't you? Where Mr. Arshad is very much involved in Street Watch, and there's a lot of people from the community that go out there and voluntarily and help to prevent crime. And I think that's one of the most best ways, I think it is, to encourage people to join the local Street Watch group and to keep an eye out for their local communities, because I think it does help, and there has been some good success stories, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think what we're talking about, like the Pashtun community, we were having a chat before we started the recording about how I think those values very much lend into a Street Watch concept, because it's about saying, the police ultimately are responsible for crime, and we've got to be able to respond and investigate when it does happen. But actually, the responsibility goes wider. So if people can contribute and build confidence in their communities, be visible with police colleagues and PCSOs, stand alongside the police and be confident to do that, to give us the information to make sure we can operate properly and function properly. But I think that there's also that bit around personal responsibility, personal responsibility for the individual, looking out for other people in your community, helping when they're in need. And if they're not confident to work with the police, then you coming forward and you doing that, and kind of trying to build up those sentiments, really, which very much in the culture that you were kind of talking about.
No, the Pashtun community, obviously, obviously this channel is for the Pashtun community, and this will also be viewed on Zamakale, Kotli Kalan as well. But I think we need to encourage young people to come and join the police, because I know that obviously a lot of young people have come into the organisation, and obviously they started to learn how we operate as a police service. And I think we've seen some members of the Pashtun community coming into the police now, Richard. I know you're aware that you've seen quite a few coming into the... How would you encourage young people from the local community, not just the Pashtun community, but from the Pakistani community as a whole, from the black community, from other communities, to come and join the police service, or be part of the police cadets, if that makes sense?
Well, the first thing to say is you'll be really welcome. We've got a lot of ground to cover, to catch up really, because what we want to get to a position is where the police force represents the community that it's policing, and we're not quite at the stage with that we would like. So the first thing to say, you'd be really welcome to apply, whatever your experience is, and sometimes people are affected by the experience of their parents and their grandparents. Yeah. So what I would say to those communities that you referenced, you've probably heard some negative stories about the police, if we're honest, and some of those things have happened in the past, and we have definitely changed as an organisation.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, and you've been in the police a long time, as I have, but I mean, from your background, some of the stories you've told me about, that the culture has changed now. You know, so don't be put off by stories that you may have heard or experience that you've heard about in the past, because really it's your opportunity to come and work with us, to change things, to bring in your experiences, your background, your values. You know, that you can then start to shape the police force for the future, really. Yeah,
so they can serve the communities that that we actually deliver to, because we need to be represented of the communities we serve. Yeah. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think when I joined, I was probably the only Pashtuns in obviously in the police service, but now we've started to see people coming in because they see it as a career now, which is really, really good and really positive. So my message to the Pashtun community is that encourage your children, whether they're daughters or sons or whoever they are, make sure that they do have a career, or they do look into a career with the police service. And I think it's a great career. I thoroughly enjoyed my service, and I will continue to enjoy my service, especially when I work with someone like yourself, because I enjoy working for you and I enjoy working as part of the leadership team. I know there's a number of us and we've all got different roles, but you need to come to work and enjoy what you're doing, and that's the important thing about policing. You've got to make sure that you enjoy doing what you're doing, and the ultimate aim of a police service is to help the community. That's the most important thing. We've got to make sure that we have an impact on the community, that they have trust and confidence in us to be able to deliver the service that they require. We won't deliver it 100% all the time, but we want to make sure that they know that we care about the community. That's the important thing.
And I would also talk about how transparent the police service is compared to what it was before. So I used to be the force lead for fair and effective use of police power, so that's some of the contentious powers that we have around arresting people, stopping and searching them, those kind of things. But it's just worth, nowadays we use body-worn video, so 96%, 97% of all our stop searches are recorded on body-worn video. So what I'd say to the community is, if you ever experience a stop search yourself, someone who did who's not happy with it, there's an objective record of that now, and we get external people from the community who've got nothing direct, they're not directly employed by the police, to look at those recordings, give us feedback about the tone, the manner, how polite the officers were. It's not just about whether the power was used legally accurately, it's about how it was discharged. So I think that's just an example for someone wanting to join the police, is that we're transparent about what we do. We want to improve. There has been mistakes made in the past.
There's accountability. There's accountability
there. Things can't just be framed. We've got to move forward. From what may have happened in the past with different communities. Absolutely. It's not acceptable, and we can. I will talk about that, and I'll talk to the community about some of the things that have happened. But from sometimes you have these conversations, and they're things that happened before I was born, let alone before I joined the police. Now, I'm not saying that nothing bad happens in policing today, but I'm just saying we've got to collectively move forward, and we want to be an employer of choice for the community.
And Richard, Birmingham is probably the most diverse city outside London. But and you know this, and we've discussed this before, but the Pakistani community make up the second largest ethnic minority in England, something like 1.1 million. That's 2 or 2.3% of population of they're not exact figure, but there's something like around that of the United Kingdom. And there are 147,000 roughly Pakistanis living in Birmingham. Yeah. I mean, the breakup of the Pakistanis are, people who are watching, they know this anyway. 59% in Alam Rock, around 56.9% in Spark Hill, and Small Heath 53%. These are the areas where Pakistanis tend to live, and as I said, they're the biggest community outside Pakistan. So, and I know that we're well represented of the Pakistani community within the police service. But we want to encourage other people from the Pakistani community to come forward and be part of the police service. What do you say to those Pakistani people that live in Birmingham that actually, have been living here since the 1950s as well, like our grandparents came to this country in the 1950s. What do you say to those people, around what the police service can do for them and vice versa, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's about, what I would say is that we're really interested in their experience over that time, but it's just for them to reflect on some of the challenges the police have been through and how we operate and where we are today. Because what we're trying to do is get a police service that works for local people. Now, that does really mean something, but for us to do that, we need people to engage and work with us. So that can be about meeting up in the good times when things are going well. It's about sometimes when there's problems or issues or things are going wrong in the community and the police are using some of those police powers I've talked about, is showing a level of understanding about why we're doing that and what we're actually trying to achieve. So there's a bit around that as well. But it's also important to think there's that opportunity to shape in some way how you want the police service to work and what you want them to prioritise and get involved in, and to give us advice about how we do that. Now, we're independent operationally because of what we have to deal with, but we genuinely will listen to feedback when we get things wrong. We're really open to being educated and getting up to speed with different cultural issues, religious issues, making sure we interpret that and get that right. And when we make mistakes, getting that feedback and reflected and trying to improve for the future. So I think there's lots of ways you can shape and influence how your local police work for you in Birmingham. Not in an absolute way, because we'll always be independent. There's no point skirting around that. We have to deal with enforcing road traffic law. We have to deal with some really serious crimes. And there's a wider criminal justice system that we support that's got universal values and principles in it as well. But actually, the more I learn about the Pakistani community talking to you, I think West Midlands police values and your own values overlap in terms of that, integrity, self-responsibility, taking responsibility, acting in a professional manner. Those kind of things are, those values within that we were just talking about, in terms of strong community, strong family,
absolutely,
respecting others.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm sorry I had to ask you some really, really tough questions today, but I think it was important that the community do know and they do see the senior leadership team, in particular the commander that leads Birmingham. And I think it's an absolute pleasure, to have you on these channels, and number two, to work with you alongside you, because I think I've learned quite a lot from yourself. But, I just want to say thank you very much indeed for joining me today. And I know your time is very important, and I know that because we work together and we know how important our time is. But taking out this half an hour or so has been well appreciated, and I'm sure everybody will appreciate it. So thank you very much, Richard. Thank you for that.
No worries.
So basically, mina wolo تاسو ولې دغه چې تاسو کوېشن مو وچو او مطلب دا چې هغه د انسر کو او تاسو ته د اپورچونټی د دې لپاره چې تاسو خپل مشمون چې کوم دي قبل سکور نه کوي چې پولیس ته دغه چې پولیس ریکروټینګ کوي کدل د کنا بل نور فورس شته خو West Midlands Police is probably one of the best police forces in the country. The leadership we got here, the values that we have here, the way we police. And I know some people will not agree with that. Well, I'm afraid, that's just life, because some people do agree with something and some don't. But I know I've been in the service a long time. Richard has been in the service a long time. We work alongside each other on the same floor, and we have the same values, and we want to make sure that we deliver a service that's first class to our communities, and that our community have the trust and confidence in us. So I would say to you, the Pakistani community, other communities who are watching this, please do encourage your children, girls and boys, to come and join or look into the career. I'm more than happy to speak to anybody if they want to come and have a chat with me or spend an hour or so with me. More than happy. I hope you've enjoyed this 15-20 minutes conversation with Richard, who I know is very busy, and I took this time out because he was very keen to speak to the Pashtun community and the Pakistani community. So I'm grateful to you, and thank you very much for watching this channel, and inshallah we'll see you again. Khuda Hafiz.